Okay, shalom, shalom. Kwam Yasha Allah, Kuhaloimla, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakahakodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and that by the Spirit taught us this beautiful truth. And just want to say the water to all the H.I.M and Akwaf that's out here sincerely keeping the laws, the statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai to the best of their ability. This is Achanan Awaf, just coming at you with another quick lesson, praying that it's edifying by the Spirit. So I was asking ChatGPT a couple of questions. I asked about Job 9 and 24. Would that be the so-called white race today? And it actually says yes. You know what I'm saying? But of course, it gives the time period that Job was in. It could have been any wicked ruler or whoever at that particular time. And I said, basically I asked like prophetically, as far as the future, would that mean the so-called white race today? And it says yes. So I asked this question, which I'm going to do the video on. I said, so if the mark of the beast is a microchip, wouldn't white people be more than likely to issue it? Okay, so it says, if someone holds the view that the mark of the beast is a literal microchip, Revelation 13, 16 and 17, of course, then yes, based on current global power structures, it's statistically more likely that the technology, funding, and rollout would originate from white majority Western nations. Here's why that reasoning fits the modern picture. Technology leadership. Most advanced microchips, AI, and biotech companies are headquartered in North America and in Europe. Global influence. Western nations control many of the largest financial systems and international policy networks. So this right here, Job 9 and 24. Matter of fact, let me just grab it real quick. It fits them perfectly, man. It says, Job 9 and 24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, wherein who is he? So now, if the Lord is saying in Revelation 13, 16, don't take this, and there's consequences with it, in Revelation chapter 14 and Revelation chapter 16, then this man has to be the wicked, because he supposedly, they'll tell you the Christians, but he will be the one issuing something that the Lord said don't do worldwide, like to billions of people, and actually make it to the point where you won't be able to buy or sell or eat or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's this guy, man. It's him. And so it's more and more information coming out on Esau. And let me get 2 Thessalonians real quick, 2 and 3. It says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. And that man of sin, the son of perdition, that goes into Esau, the so-called white race. He's the progenitor of the so-called white race. That's the reason why you see the whole earth is out of whack. The damn, the kids are crazy. The women are crazy. Animals are fucking everywhere, just looking crazy. The water is crazy. The food is crazy. Because this man is in control of the planet. It's actual heathen. Like Esau, he's a goddamn. He's the heathen of the heathens. But the people that he actually calls savages have better manners than they do. This man is the real fucking caveman. But let's go back to ChatGPT real quick, right? So it says, let me start back from here, from the top here. Here's why that reasoning fits the modern picture. Technology leadership, most advanced microchips, AI, and biotech companies are headquartered in North America and Europe. Edomites. Global influence. Western nations control many of the largest financial systems and international policy networks. That's coming from the elite on down. Military and surveillance capacity. The most advanced surveillance infrastructure is concentrated in these same nations. However, there are a few important nuisances. Prophecy isn't tied to race in the Bible. Yes, it is. ChatGPT, you're wrong. Yes, it is. Because actually, in that particular chapter, basically, when you get let's get this. Revelation 13 and 10, right? Let me start at verse 9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. Right? So somebody led people into captivity. That means that somebody's going to go into captivity. Who's known for leading people into captivity? Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. Who did he lead into captivity? You so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you Israelites. And also, there's plenty of scriptures where the whole Bible is about the Israelites and the enemies of the Israelites, so to speak, and the way that the Lord is going to bring the Israelites back up and place them in their own land, and they're going to rule with an iron rod. You know what I'm saying? So what the fuck is ChatGPT talking about? Well, we know that, mainly so-called white people, they run this particular information. So when you ask ChatGPT certain questions, it's going to give you a lot of biased shit. You know what I'm saying? It's going to lean more towards the sympathetic parts of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, and he's this great person, but these people are fucking, they are the hammer of the earth, man. Okay, so it says, so it comes back, it says, let me start back from here. Prophecy isn't tied to race in the Bible, which we know it is. Revelation doesn't specify ethnicity, just that there will be a global power enforcing the mark. Okay, but who's the global power? Who's in control of the earth? Technology, in number 2 on the list, it says technology isn't exclusive to the West anymore. Nations like China, China, they're heathen. India, they're heathen. And Israel are now major players in microchip surveillance and biometric tech. So those Israelis over there, which are not the people, those are the imposters, those are so-called white people too. But China and India, they're fucking heathen too. They're mentioned, they're enemies of the Lord, according to Psalms 83. Because they just some fucking weirdos anyway. They just some weirdos. They like straight up. But the overall majority or the overall runner of the planet, that's Esau, man. China not running around out here, throwing all their influence around. It's not like niggas in the hood is using chopsticks, man. Now, you might go to a Chinese restaurant and you may want to experience the culture and get you some chopsticks, But they're not running all throughout the world and forcing everybody to speak Chinese and eat eat with fucking noodles with chopsticks. Esau, he's running around the world forcing everybody to know English and giving your ass a spoon and a fork and telling you this is how you eat. Right? So number 3 on the list, it says the enforcer could be multinational. All these nations, they're going to do it. But the main people that's going to push for it, which this is what America's trying to do right now. They're actually trying to catch up to China. Because China got the perfect so-called, blueprint for the control of the people. Because China is in total control of their population. They don't have all that freedom of speech and all that you can say anything and talk about leaders and do all this. No, they are, and again, they're just doofy as shit. Those are some of the most doofiest fucking people on the planet. Okay, but it says the enforcer could be multinational. Even if it originates in the West, the final system could be a coalition involving multiple ethnic groups and nations. Yeah, we already know that because all the world leaders, they're all in on it. And the people that they're going to try and chip first are the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. We know that. Okay, so it says, if we link this to your earlier Job 9:24 point, in today's world, if the wicked control the earth, and if the mark is a literal microchip, then yes, the first movers would probably come from white majority tech powers. See? But the Bible emphasis is on global cooperation in evil, not one race permanently. No, definitely. Esau is on. He's the top power, wickedness on the planet, man. You can't get around that. Matter of fact, let's get But see, like I said again, when you ask ChatGPT certain questions, you got to kind of run it down. You got to ask, some backup questions and stuff. And it'll actually, pretty much show you that they lied 2 paragraphs before. Like, oh, yeah, well, yeah, it does mean that. And this, and this. So you got to be pretty specific with what you're asking. But this is Psalm 17:13. It says, arise, O Yahweh, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword, from men which are thy hand, O Lord. from men of the world. Those men of the world, the main top enemies of Yahweh, according to Psalms 83, is Esau. And then, of course, Moab is on the list, China. Ishmael is on the list, the so-called Arabs. Ammon, which is the so-called Japanese. Amalek, which is the those Israelis, which are Edomites over in the land. Those are all, enemies of the Lord. They're the wicked, man. Verse 14 again, it says, from men which are thy sword, O Yahweh, from men of the world, which have their portion in this life. So somebody is getting a portion in this particular age or society. And it's these Edomites and all these other heathen nations, because so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, they don't get no share. We don't get no cut in this shit. Matter of fact, that's going into Second Ezra chapter 6. I think like verses 54 on down. Like, why don't we, if we're the chosen people, so to speak, Esdras was, kind of lamenting, so to speak, you know what I'm saying, and asking the Lord, well, if we're your chosen people, why don't we have a share in the world? The only people that don't have a share in the world, that don't have a seat at the table, that don't have a military, that don't have, no land, nowhere to call home, other than these places that we're in captivity, those are the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, man. So these people, they have their portion right now. And that's what Trump is he's trying to hang on to that portion. But the Lord got a time period for that. It says, from men which are thy hand, or Yahweh, from men of the world, which have their portion in this life, in whose belly thou fillest with thy head treasure. They are full of children, and leave the rest of their substance to their babes. So these are the only people that's on the planet, really, that leave inheritances. You don't get a lot of inheritances from so-called black people, man. You might... Yeah, mama might, daddy might pass away, leave you a car or some shit. A little, little personal jewelry, a little chain with a cross on it and shit like that. Or, might have a couple of dollars in the bank. You get to take over. But we're talking about these people are billionaires, trillionaires, and they leave their substance to their babes, man. It says they have their portion in this life. So this is their go time, man. Because all we can do is pretty much get up, go to work, punch in for these same white people, so-called white people. It's not like we don't have no portion in this place, man. Let me get that second Esdras that I was quoting. Chapter 6, around verse 54. Second Esdras 6 and 54, it says, and after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. So ChatGPT is trying to act as if, this thing is not about race, but the Lord chose a race. He chose a race of people. He chose the Israelites. Right? Deuteronomy 7 and 6, Deuteronomy 14 and 2, I think, a bunch of verses that goes into the Lord's portion. You know what I'm saying? It's the Israelites. He chose a people out of every race that he created, out of all the 18 nations. Verse 55, it says, all this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our sake. So the Lord made the world for us, right? But we're at the bottom of the totem pole. We're just slaves in this whole planet. We're the whole planet is a prison, man, for us. It says, as for the other people, here we go. This is the separations of nations here, which also come of Adam. Thou hast said that they are nothing, but be like unto spittle, and has likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. So these people are no more than, you hacking up a loogie and spitting that shit out of your mouth. You're not going to be concerned with it. You just, Verse 57, it says, and now, O Lord, behold, these heathen are another race of people. So ChatGPT is lying about the Bible not being about race, which have ever been reputed as nothing, because that's all that they are. They're just the hammer of the Lord. They're the sword of the Lord. They only are designed to, it's like having a knife. You got a steak knife, you got a damn butter knife, you got a, and each, it's just what for that particular purpose. You cut into what you need to cut into, and you sit that shit to the side. And that's what Esau is. It says, and now, O Yahweh, behold, these heathen, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us and to devour us. So there's a race of people that's over another race of people that's devouring them. Right? And we know the so-called white man, he's been over us, devouring us, and Trump been on TV clowning. Like, for real, he that boy straight forward letting you know you niggas ain't shit and we coming after you. Verse 58, it says, but we, thy people whom thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, and thy fervent lover, are given it into their hands. This is going into race right here. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure? So Esdras wanted to know, you know what I'm saying? Like, how long is this going to be going on? You know what I'm saying? Before, Yahweh Bashim Shah, before you bring us back up. And also, Salakia, let me jump to the top. Same chapter. Chapter 6 and verse 9. It says, for Esau, the so-called white race, is the end of the world. That word world is going into an age or society. And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. These are two different races right here. What does Genesis talk about? It talks about two manner of people. These are races, man, of people. Genesis 25. Let me see. And right here in verse 23, it says, and the Lord Yahweh said unto her, two nations. These are two races of people. Two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. So if you got two nations, somebody's going to serve another. Like right now, we're in servitude. No. And so Galatians 6 and 7 talks about how the Lord is not mocked. That a man soweth, that shall he also reap. That man Esau, this nation, they sow slavery. They're going to reap slavery. And also in what's that, Job 34 and 29, I think it is. It talks about, it says, when Job 34 and 29, when he giveth quietness, who then can make trouble? And when he hideth his face, who then can behold him? Whether it be done against a nation or against a man only. So the Lord, he's in control of the nations, and he's in control of every single individual within those nations. But he sets up kingdoms and he breaks down kingdoms. Matter of fact, we can get Daniel chapter 4 and verse 17. It says, this matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the bases of men. So these bases of men that set up over this entire planet is the so-called white man. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, China got a little power. And really, the Lord set them up in a different way. But overall, these nations that have like military might, they got nukes and stuff like that now. Only reason why they really done that was to keep themselves from being overcome or overran by the so-called white man. Because if they didn't have these particular, say China didn't have no nukes or no missiles and no military might at all, man, these crackers would have been in there. They was able to get at them so-called Japanese, you know what I'm saying, when they hit them. So when they hit Japanese with the bombs back in the days, these other nations was like, yeah, hey, we got to get that sword. We got to get us one. We got to get that shit to keep these people off our ass. Because Esau, he can never have enough. We talking about the man that's going to the moon. Motherfucker talking about, blotting out the sun. Talking about colonizing Mars and shit like that. So when ChatGPT is talking about this, what the fuck did it say? It says, what? I'm trying to see where, I forgot was the mark that it was at when I asked, this motherfucker just said that it's not about race. Oh, yeah, right here it says, but the Bible's emphasis is on global cooperation in evil, not one race permanently. Nah, this is going into Esau, man. Esau, Edom, the so-called white race, man. The Lord is pinpointing them. That's how we know that we're in the last days, because one of those last prophecies as well was that the man of sin, the son of perdition, be revealed. Okay, so it says, if you want, I can show how the Revelation 13 mark system could realistically emerge from current Western and Eastern tech partnerships, because it's not only Silicon Valley anymore. Yeah, we know that, but when it comes to the power of the dollar, Esau running that shit. Esau, you don't see, you can go to China right now and you'll see American money with all these so-called white people faces on it, like you right here in America. But when was the last time you walked into a store here in America and they gave you Chinese change back? You be looking like, what the fuck is this? They ain't, America, they don't even take Canadian coins here. And Canada is right across the border right there. You ain't about to see the Queen face on no money giving back and no you giving $100 bill and these motherfuckers is counting you back 20s. You know what I'm saying? And some other currency. No, America. You can go anywhere in the world. You're gonna see the American dollar, that greenback. You can go online right now in other countries, and you'll see people all over in fucking Arab states, so to speak. With a damn brick. But yeah, you can go to any country and shit. You'll see a motherfucker that don't speak no English and in a damn rap video with tossing around American currency. You're not gonna see Japanese currency here in the Americas. You can't. You gotta trade that shit over. If you coming into the Americas, you gonna have to trade that shit over. But you can go directly from America with American money and spend that shit anywhere. And who's on the face of them dollar bills or them $10 bills or them $20 bills? It's Esau. He's the one that he forces English on everybody. Like the apostles always go into, if you fly a plane, or if you're like a pilot or whatever, no matter what country you're from, you're gonna have to learn some damn English. So you have to learn the so-called white man's language. So again, I could ask ChatGPT a couple more questions, and it'll break some more stuff down. Because like I said, you have to kind of like force ChatGPT to really give it up. You know what I'm saying? Because it'll give you your regular going on Google and you typing something in, white people version of shit. So I'm gonna end out there. I don't want to keep it long. It was just a question that I had asked. I asked those two questions. This Job 9 and 24, going to the so-called white race. And then, of course, this one. So if the mark of the beast is a microchip, wouldn't white people be more than likely to issue it? Right? And it gave you the whole hookup right here. It says, if someone holds the view that the mark of the beast is literally a microchip, then yes. Based on the current global power structures, it's statistically more likely that the technology, funding, and rollout would originate from white majority Western nations. And not only that, but it's that Esau can never have enough on that attitude. That's his mentality. He can't have enough. That motherfucker, hey, he's as the grave, man. You can dig graves all damn day long, every day. There's a spot to put a motherfucker, and that's Esau. He can never have enough. He's like that greedy ass kid, you know what I'm saying? That just, he can't have one pack of cookies. He can't have 2 packs of cookies. That motherfucker, he'll keep eating cookies, until he vomit that shit up and still be eating cookies. But that's Esau, man. So with that, pray that this lesson was edifying. Kwam Yasha Allah and a bubble ball.